It's not necessarily a quick vehicle, but it's more than adequate for what it would be doing on the off-road. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're gonna be going over the Toyota FJ Cruiser. Now obviously they don't make these anymore, but this particular one is being provided to me by the Larry H. Miller Toyota here in Murray. They have it for sale. Check out their inventory in the link below so you can get up-to-date pricing on this particular FJ, but let's just get right into the video. Now under the hood of the FJ Cruiser, we have a naturally aspirated 4-liter V6. It goes through a 5-speed automatic transmission. You can also get this with a 6-speed manual. Power outputs are 260 horsepower and then 271 pound-feet of torque, and a 0 to 60 time of right around 7 seconds. Now let's go over the front end on the FJ Cruiser, which I actually really like. So they do like all of the venting throughout the front just to make it look a little bit sportier. I love the circular headlights. Definitely a cool little touch, signature FJ Cruiser look as well. But overall, the front end isn't like this like beautiful look. I mean, you got kind of like the bumper like sticking out there, which is kind of interesting, all that kind of stuff. And you've got like all different colors, right? You have the silver, then the black, then the tan, then the white for the roof. All sorts of crazy stuff happening. But still, it kind of has this like cool, like military-ish type look, and I love it. Now on this particular FJ Cruiser, we've got 17-inch wheels with 265mm tires wrapped around them in the front and in the rear as well. And something that I really like is also this bulge right here from the front. Definitely gives it kind of like a muscular look. And then you got the fender flare that kind of comes down to a mud flap at the bottom. Pretty interesting. Obviously, if you want to take this off-road, then you would put a little bit more aggressive tires on it, but these tires are going to be better for just kind of like all-season use and then also street use as well. And then here's kind of like a look at the suspension setup for the front. It's interesting what they do with the mirrors, how they have the little light there on the side of the mirror. Again, it's a signature look of the car, but it's definitely different. But here's your side profile where you can see the rack and everything on it. Now here's a key fob for the FJ. You've got the Toyota logo on the back of the key fob, and then pretty simple, you've got the unlock function, you got the lock function, all of that kind of stuff. And again, you got to remember this particular FJ is from 2013, so the key fob is going to be a little bit more old school. We are going to go into the rear. You just have that little latch right there, and you've got the door opening in the back like this, which I mean similar to what the Mercedes G-Wagon does, and then also the Jeep Wrangler. This is kind of, well, it competes against the Wrangler, not the G-Wagon. G-Wagon's way more expensive, but actually has the original floor mats back here, which is pretty cool. And you got this little power outlet here in the rear, and then notice you got the sound system back here as well. And I wonder what's back here, guys. I'm kind of curious. Okay, we just got a bunch of random stuff back there. I'm curious though. I always have to look at stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of the rear, it's actually got a good amount of storage space compared to a Wrangler. I feel like it's about the same, but this actually might be more spacious. This is like more similar to like a 4-door Wrangler in terms of space instead of like a 2-door Wrangler. Now in terms of things on the rear, let's start at the top. So you do have the roof rack there at the top, and then you got the two-tone design with the roof and everything. I've always loved these taillights, and if they ever bring back the FJ, if they did like a crazy like LED design but like still capture this taillight, that would be really cool in my opinion. Got your regular logos, you got the little exhaust tip hanging out the back. You actually do have a tow package, and then you got the tire in the back, because remember, this is supposed to be like a utility off-road vehicle, so they got to have that utility off-road vehicle look. Now coming up to the front, you might think, oh well, there's no back door, but you would be surprised. So you're like, okay, what's happening here? And you're like, oh, this just looks like any other door panel. It's got the stickers on it with the VIN and everything, as you can see. You're like, oh, this is all normal. And then you reach your hand back here, and yes, little suicide door for the back. And I love how they brought the exterior color onto the interior. But we're gonna pop in. So stepping in, oh, it's kind of cramped to get back here. So that's more similar to the 2-door Wrangler in terms of like getting back here. But the space, once you are back here, oh, it's actually pretty good. Now I'm 5'11", and like my overall space with my headroom and everything is actually really good. Like I feel comfortable back here, which is pretty surprising. The seats themselves, they are full cloth seats. They do have leather headrests on them, which is pretty interesting that they would do like cloth on the seats themselves and then do leather on the headrest. That's different, but like it's super open when you have the doors. Like the wind's blowing in here and it's different. Here at the front of the FJ, they do the same thing with the color, bringing it to the interior, and you guys will notice everything here is pretty simplistic. Now for the seats at the front, they do the same thing. They've got the leather at the top, and then they do the cloth for the rest of the seat. Now the seat adjustments are all manual. There is what the pedals look like in the FJ, and then you actually get another FJ mat right there. And then coming over here, you've got your little mirror adjustments on the side. And yeah, that's one more look at that before we pop in. Now to start up the FJ, just put the key in, twist it, and Yeah, everything will come to life. First things first is the steering wheel, which is actually pretty interesting with how it looks. So you actually have leather all around and stitching on the center of the steering wheel. Not too crazy, but just the design of it, it looks pretty interesting from a design perspective. But you have the stuff in all the normal places just like any other Toyota would. And so the steering wheel, other than it looking a little bit different, is actually pretty normal in functionality. Now here is the center stack, which is pretty old school, and a lot of you might actually like that because you hate all the modern tech that's in newer cars. You can see the RPMs over on the left side, you got the speed, and then you can see this particular one has 115,000 miles on it. And then over there it shows you what gear you're in, and other than that, there's no screen in the center or anything like that. They keep it simple. So you guys can see this at the top of the dash. If you're wondering, that's the location of where those are at. But yeah, that's interesting, like especially the compass, and it actually moves while you're driving, like it kind of like wobbles around. And so yeah, it's a pretty cool little setup. Coming down into this area, this is where things do get, again, old school. So if you like old school, then this is perfect for you. You have like a super old school radio, no infotainment system or anything like that. And then it is a single zone climate, which this is a relatively small vehicle, so you don't really need a dual zone climate. But yeah, you can see just like this whole area, I feel like I was transported back to like 1990 roughly. Now this is pretty cool down here. So you can charge some devices right there. It does have parking sensors, and then this is to turn on the power outlet. You got your stability control and then your advanced track system, so you can turn both of them off. And then you do have a differential lock, so all of that's going to be very important for off-roading. This whole area is also pretty important for off-roading. So this is the shifter for that 5-speed automatic. Pretty simple to use. It has like a nice substantial feel to it, actually, which I really like. And this is the drive line select, so you can go from your 2-wheel drive to your 4-wheel high to your neutral, and then your 4-wheel low. Again, that's going to be good for off-roading. And then got the little e-brake right there, and there isn't like a center console lid. It's just all open in this area, which is pretty interesting. And the glove box is also interesting. So you have a glove box, and it's pretty normal. And then you have like all this space up here. I'm guessing just for the airbag, but like you might be able to fit another glove box there, but there's nothing there. Now up top here, you just have a light colored headliner. Unlike the Wrangler, you cannot take off the top, but there is one more thing that's up here. It's weird. The backup camera actually pops into the mirror. You can see a resolution on it. Pretty old school, so you're probably just gonna be backing up using your head, but it does help out a little bit. And something I noticed, boom, that is the most random storage space I've ever seen in my life, like right in front of the steering wheel. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Now that we're done going over the interior on this particular FJ, let's quickly get into pricing. So pricing is honestly all over the place depending on how old the car is, obviously, and then how many miles it has. The newer ones seem to be doing the best in the market compared to anything else, and I'm guessing it's just because they have a little bit more with the tech side of things, even though it's not really techy, if that makes sense. But I mean, you literally could be anywhere from like the low teens on an FJ Cruiser all the way up to almost $40,000 depending on the year and the mileage and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, but overall they're holding their value exceptionally well. And that being said, let's take this one out and see how it drives. Quick talk about visibility before we set off here in the FJ Cruiser. So visibility over the hood and everything is actually pretty good. The windshield is almost completely straight up and down. And then visibility through the mirrors, especially with that little kind of like convex mirror there in the corner, is really solid as well. And then here's visibility all throughout the rear. Now there is that blind spot right there that you guys can see. Other than that though, it's relatively good. And that all being said, let's set off. So I am initially setting off here in the FJ Cruiser, and the thing that's really weird that I just noticed is like when I was putting the cameras up is how far forward this windshield is. Like the windshield is actually really far forward in front of you. It's kind of awkward just like how far forward it is. It's definitely something that's weird that I guess I'm just like not accustomed to. And the other thing that I want to mention initially setting off here is it definitely kind of has that Jeep Wrangler feel in terms of the size. Now in terms of how big this feels, it definitely feels closer to a 4-door Wrangler compared to a 2-door Wrangler. 100% just has that bigger feel to it. And initially setting off with the ride quality, it's actually really smooth. I am very impressed with how smooth this is. It definitely drives a lot smoother than what I was expecting. I kind of was expecting this to ride a little bit rougher because it's a little bit of an older platform, and it is an off-road vehicle, which typically they aren't the smoothest, but it does a really good job. In terms of the noise that comes through, because this is a block of cheese, you do get a little bit more wind noise, but other than that, it's pretty quiet inside the cabin here. I'm really impressed overall with this vehicle, just from a noise perspective and everything else. And we're going to be getting our first turn up here, and I think I know exactly how this is gonna steer, but we'll see how it goes. Steering's very light, very vague. Yeah, there's quite a bit of on-center deadness before it does anything. This kind of, the best way for me to describe this is if you guys have ever sat in a school bus driver's seat, like as a kid, if you ever had a chance to do that, this is what that feels like. Like you're sitting up, like with the steering, just like how the steering wheel is angled and how the steering is super light. It like how I see bus drivers drive, that's how this feels. This feels like a miniature school bus from the driving perspective, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's just how it is. Now we're gonna get our little acceleration here on the FJ. So the transmission, definitely more on the old school side with the gear shifts. In terms of the acceleration, I mean, you guys heard the power figures in the 0 to 60 time. It's not necessarily a quick vehicle, but it's more than adequate for what it would be doing on the off-road. The power figures are right around what a Jeep Wrangler has, again, and I keep comparing it to that, but this is kind of where this vehicle compares. And that actually get me into summing things up with the FJ Cruiser. So this is definitely a weird vehicle, but I feel like when this vehicle was brand new, it was a total bargain for what it is, because you get more space and I feel like more practicality compared to like a two-door Wrangler, and it was pretty similarly priced. Now, used, I still think this is a great value. Now, the reason is the fact that this holds its value so amazingly well. You literally could buy one of these, and depending on how many miles you put on it and how you take care of it, there's a pretty high chance that you might be able to make a little bit of money or at least break even on it. And how many cars can you do that? A car is generally a depreciating asset, and the fact that you could buy one of these and most likely, depending on the market and everything, but most likely with how things have been going with these, you could not lose any money. So I think it's a cool SUV. I think it's a cool off-road SUV, and it's one of the best vehicles you can buy, especially if you don't want to lose money to depreciation. And that is going to sum things up with this 2013 FJ Cruiser. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Toyota here in Murray, Utah for providing us with the FJ Cruiser. Definitely check out the inventory in the link below. I will see all of you in that next video.